Today we're going to talk about one of the most terrifying sounds of the Second World War. And no, it wasn't a bomb, it wasn't a gun. It was the scream of an aircraft, a scream deliberately engineered to break the human spirit long before a single bomb ever fell. The Junkers Ju-87 Stuka. So, to really get the Stuka, you gotta go right back to the beginning of the war, because this is where the plane became more than just a plane. It was literally the soundtrack to a whole new kind of warfare, the German blitzkrieg.
I mean, just imagine hearing that sound. And that wail? It wasn't some fluke of aerodynamics. Oh no. It was a weapon, a deliberate tool for psychological warfare, engineered to cause pure, absolute panic. It was a weapon aimed at your mind just as much as your body.
So you've got this 1-2 punch, right? Sheer terror from the sound, and then deadly precision with the bombs. That combination made the Stuka the absolute linchpin of Germany's early victories. It was the flying artillery for their ground troops. But it makes you wonder, how did they even come up with such a unique and, let's be honest, strange-looking aircraft in the first place?
Okay, so to really understand the Stuka, you have to know why it was built. Think about it. Back in the 20s and 30s, dropping a bomb from a plane flying level, it was kind of like trying to throw a dart in a hurricane. You just couldn't hit anything with real accuracy. The Stuka, that was the answer. A plane designed for one job and one job only, putting a bomb exactly where it needed to go.
And you know, the name itself tells the whole story. Stuka, it's just short for Sturzkampfflugzeug, and it literally means dive combat aircraft. So this thing wasn't just some bomber they tweaked. Nope. It was a specialist, built from the ground up for that one single deadly purpose.
And man, they built this thing fast. Like incredibly fast. The whole idea gets going in the early 30s, and boom, by 1936, it's already in combat trials over Spain. This super quick journey from the drawing board to the battlefield, well, that pretty much cemented its crucial role in Germany's new air force, the Luftwaffe.
All right, we got to talk about how this plane looks, because it is unforgettable. But none of it was for show. Every weird angle, every strange curve, from those crooked wings to that landing gear that doesn't even retract, it all had a very specific and very deadly purpose.
You put all these pieces together and what you get is a super stable, really tough bombing platform. Take those inverted gull wings. What they did was give the pilot a crystal clear view of the target down below, no wing in the way. And that fixed landing gear, it was so rugged it could land on pretty much any rough field near the front lines. Now all of this meant the plane was slow. Really slow. But in those early days of the war, speed wasn't the point. Accuracy was everything.
Okay, but here's maybe the most genius part of the whole design. The automatic pull-out system. I mean, think about this for a second. When you're pulling out of a near vertical dive, you're hitting like 6 Gs. That's enough to make the pilot completely black out. So this system was a fail-safe. It was designed to pull the plane out of the dive automatically, even if the pilot was passed out cold. Absolutely crucial stuff. And this is where that infamous scream comes from. They were little propeller-driven sirens they mounted on the landing gear, nicknamed Jericho trumpets, and tactically, they did absolutely nothing. In fact, they actually created drag, made the plane even slower. Their one and only job was to scare the living daylights out of everyone on the ground.
So for a while there, a short, brutal while, the Stuka seemed totally unstoppable. It felt like the perfect weapon for this new, lightning-fast kind of war. But, and this is a big but, the very thing that made it so good, that trade-off of speed for accuracy, was about to become its greatest weakness, its Achilles heel.
And this slide right here, this really shows you the Stuka's big paradox. As long as the Luftwaffe owned the skies, the Stuka was an absolute monster, devastatingly effective. But the second it went up against a modern air force, like Britain's Royal Air Force, well, to be blunt, it was a sitting duck.
The losses they took over Britain, they were just staggering. Unbelievable. During the Battle of Britain, on one day, August 18, 1940, a day the Luftwaffe pilots themselves called the hardest day, they lost 16 Stukas in one fight. The losses were so bad, so completely unsustainable, that they just had to pull the Stuka out of the battle altogether. Its fatal flaw was out there for everyone to see.
Without its own fighters flying cover, the Stuka was just a target. It was way too slow, not nearly agile enough to get into a dogfight with something like a Spitfire or a Hurricane. No chance, and that one little machine gun in the back, it barely offered any protection. The terror weapon had finally met its match.
But you know what? The story isn't over. Not by a long shot.
They pulled it out of Western Europe, sure, but they gave it a whole new job on the massive Eastern Front. A brand new mission, tank hunting.
See, over on the Eastern Front, the Germans ran into a totally new problem. These waves of heavily armored Soviet tanks, like the incredible T-34. And it turns out, just dropping bombs on them wasn't very effective. So what's the solution? They turned the Stuka into a dedicated tank buster, swapping its bombs for 2 huge anti-tank cannons under the wings.
This new version, the Stuka G, got a nickname, the Kanonenvogel, or cannon bird, and it was, for all intents and purposes, a flying can opener. And here's the crazy ironic part. Its biggest weakness, its slow speed, suddenly became its greatest strength. That slow flight gave the pilots a really stable platform and more time to line up their shots on the thinnest part of a tank's armor, the top. The most famous Stuka ace, Hans Ulrich Rudel, claimed he destroyed over 500 Soviet tanks, many of them in this very aircraft.
So when you look back, the Stuka's legacy is really two-sided. On one hand, it was this revolutionary leap forward. It proved just how game-changing precision air support could be. But on the other hand, it's this huge cautionary tale about being too specialized. It shows you that in warfare, nothing stays on top forever.
So what's the final verdict? Revolutionary weapon or fatally flawed design? The truth is, it was both. And its story is just this powerful reminder, In the fast-evolving world of military technology, today's ultimate weapon can become tomorrow's biggest liability in the blink of an eye.